It's been almost 40 years since a Lynchburg man turned up dead on the side of a Campbell County road. Greg Yuille was just 30 years old when someone shot and killed him. In an ABC 13 exclusive, Patty Martin explains why investigators have new hope they'll soon be able to solve this case.
It means a lot, to know the truth,
Antonio Yuille says he'll never forget the day he found out someone shot and killed his father.
Man, it was... Whew. It was a Monday, and for some odd reason, my grandmother got me and my brother off the bus there instead of we getting off the bus at home. And I remember after the school special, the news came on. It was breaking news. My grandmother told me my brother to come in there and sit down and look at the news, and that's when it came across the news.
Antonio was just 7 years old when his father died. He says the last time he saw him was in a convenience store.
He came over there, gave me a big hug, and gave me $1, and he said, "This time you give your brother 50 cents. Wish him happy birthday. I always do this every year."
And now every October, Antonio comes to the Green Spring Baptist Church Cemetery in Brookneal to visit his dad's grave on his birthday.
I kneel down, wish him happy birthday, and that's my day.
Back in March of 1986, a group of school kids on a bus spotted Greg Yuille's body in the woods right here at the intersection of Wheeler and Plum Branch Roads in Concord. This is a relatively isolated site. Investigators believe the suspect or suspects were familiar with the area. And since it's just a few miles from routes 501 and 460, they say it would have been easy for someone to get in and out of the area quickly.
This case was tough right from the beginning.
Campbell County investigator Tracy Emerson is now leading the Greg Yuille investigation.
There was dozens and dozens of people questioned. There was probably 15, 20 detectives working on the case from Lynchburg, State Police, Bedford, Alta Vista.
Back in 1986, there weren't cell phones, doorbell cameras, or DNA technology. Emerson says those detectives relied on old-fashioned investigative techniques.
The term the first 48 hours is very important on these cases, and that's when you really hit the ground and get to work.
Why is the first 48 hours so important? What happens after that makes this harder to solve?
People start putting stories together after they hear of a tragedy or a murder or something like this. People get together and they start giving each other instructions and different things. When you can get on a case when it's fresh and hot, is what I like to call it, and start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, it's less time for someone to come up with stories and so forth.
And when you say come up with stories, you mean not necessarily deliberately, but things get in their head, you think, and they sort of remember things differently?
Yep, or somebody comes and tells them what they heard, and then the second person tells them what they heard, and by the time you talk to them, they're telling you stories from someone else instead of what they actually know.
Emerson says what detectives have been able to piece together is that on the evening before Greg Yuille's body was discovered, two men picked him up around Miller Park in Lynchburg. At the time, Yuille lived just down the road on Park Avenue. Investigators are still trying to figure out how Yuille's body ended up here and whether drugs played a factor.
Mr. Yuille was from Campbell County himself, so you just don't know a lot of the pieces, whether he said, well, let's ride down this way so we can talk, and they end up doing something to him. You don't know how they got to where they got.
But now old evidence is giving them new hope.
We currently have some evidence at the lab being examined that we hoped to give us some leads to go back out and reapproach some people.
That evidence includes the clothes that Yuille was wearing when he was found. A backlog of cases at the forensic lab in Roanoke has slowed down the investigation, so they're still waiting on the results. But Emerson says he hopes they're close to getting some answers.
I really suspect to hear something any day. That's how close I think it is. Now, whether it's something that's going to help us or not, that remains to be seen.
Meanwhile, he's hoping anyone who had contact with Yuille in the time leading up to his death will come forward.
We have some suspects still today. The problem with the case, obviously, is some of our witnesses have passed away. They are deceased now. Some of the suspects are still in this area.
What are you looking for from someone out there to help you take this case to possibly solving it? What could they tell you?
A lot of times it's information that you don't think is very important, but for us working the cases, it's a big piece of the puzzle. I think anybody who was close to them at the time whether they know what he was doing or not doing. That information now would be very vital and important to us.
Somebody who may have some information, perhaps they were involved in something and are nervous about coming forward themselves. Is that a possibility?
We don't care about that at all at this point. This case to us is a homicide case, and it is to bring justice to the victim, Mr. Yuille, and also his children who are still alive, wanting answers to what happened to their father.
Antonio says that's all he's looking for.
It's not even no anger. I just want to know what made you get to this point, or what it could have been some resolved or what, because at the end of the day, you robbed some kids out their father. Put the shoe on the other foot. Somebody would have robbed you or your father. How would you feel?
We are in daily contact with the sheriff's office, so I will update you on this case once they get that evidence back from the lab. But if you know anything, you can talk to Investigator Emerson at the Campbell County Sheriff's Office and stay anonymous. Back to you.